This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is March 31st, 2025. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great. Not as great as you. You had quite the day. Obviously, if people are watching on YouTube, you can see and hear that you're not in your normal locale. Why don't you tell the people what you were up to on Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday was our Court of Dreams experience, like part one of our two-part journey here in Orlando this weekend. So, yeah, today we had the Court of Dreams experience where myself, as well as, 30 plus other Magic fans, got to play on the Kia Center floor for, just about 2 hours playing pickup. So the game is tomorrow against the Clippers, or today as you're listening to this. And I was like, I'm not driving all the way home to then drive all the way back to Orlando to then drive all the way back home after the game. So I decided to stay here in Orlando for the evening. Just hanging out.
That'll be fun. How was the Magic Clippers game is important, but the more important game of the weekend, or games, were the games that you guys played at Kia Center. How were they? And anybody surprise you as far as like some of our viewers, listeners, patrons, whoever showed up? Anybody surprise you think they could get a 10-day with the Magic right now?
So, yeah, the games. So, first of all, I'm almost positive the last time that I played pickup basketball was at last year's Court of Dreams event. So, the rust was definitely there. And if you're not used to shooting in a building that is that big, and last year they had like the game lights on while we were playing, which I think helped. This year we didn't have game lights. It was a little bit darker, but other people shot well. So maybe I can't really use that as an excuse. I will say I did hit a three, turned down the other side, and was hitting the Franz celly.
Oh boy.
Running. I had to do it at least one time. There was one of our listeners, I didn't catch his name, but he had this stretch where he drove into the lane and like threw a ball up, and it looked like it was a pretty bad miss. Bounces off the top of the backboard, probably about a good 5-6 feet above, and then just drops straight down through the net. And then a couple of possessions later, pulled up almost from the logo, nothing but net. It was pretty crazy. That was a pretty crazy. Everybody was going nuts during that sequence. And then our court cousin, Jason Peach, or is it Peach? Jason the Peach? I'm just going to call him Peach. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. Big man's got some skills, running the floor, running pick and roll, rebounding. Obviously, he tried to set a pick on me, which I did. I was able to kind of get through, and he comes up to me after. He's like, "You showed me something there. Like you moved me." I was like, "Hey, I do have a little bit of strength in the legs." But no, I did not play particularly well. Our boy Matty World Peace hit a three. I think Ben hit a three as well. And then like we had some guys that were there that were certified hoopers. At least I know they go to the LA Fitness at least a couple of times a week, it seems like. But yeah, next year I would like to be in a little bit better shape than I am now, and hopefully I can get a little bit more runs in between now and then, because I think I had more turnovers today than I had points, in like 3 pickup games that I got to play in. So,
Ouch.
Yeah, the other thing that you may not realize about like an NBA floor is that there are dead spots where you put the ball down and the ball just does not come back up, at least not to where you expected it to be. So that was a struggle for a lot of people as well. But more than anything, like it's just, we have the best, like Magic fans are the best. We have the best community. Everybody was so grateful and so appreciative for the opportunity to play on the Kia Center floor. And, like dads bringing their kids and stuff like that. Like that's why we really do it is
Right.
It's awesome. But, at the end of the day, everything's for the community, because it wouldn't be possible without the community. Otherwise, I don't know, 30 or 40 people that we could get to go to a game so that we could have an opportunity like that. But It was an absolute blast. Want to try to do it once a year. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully playing a little bit better next time.
Yeah, I love what you said there, because like that's a memory for everybody. All 30 something of you, you'll remember that forever, which is just a cool thing. And that's the kind of stuff we love to be a part of and help make happen. And that's kind of why we exist. So yeah, glad you guys got to do that. And yeah, I'm already looking forward to next year and seeing what that could look like. And yeah, maybe one of the guys from those runs will be knocking down threes for the Magic next year, because we definitely need some more three balls. That's for sure.
Tell you what, Matt made a post. He hit a three, and he said, "I hit more threes in Kia Center than Gary Harris."
Rip, man.
It's tough, but hey,
hate to see it.
Gary's been knocking down some shots, as of late, a bit more than in recent weeks. So I guess we'll take that. But next year, I think I want to, I want to try to, coordinate things a little bit better. Like last year, Carmen was up here, and I had, Will. For those of you that have been listening to the podcast since day one, Will was there running the scoreboard for us. Carmen was like, making sure that the correct teams were playing at the right time. But I would love to bring like a photographer, like a videographer next year, and have somebody put together like a highlight reel of, hopefully I have some highlights, which would be nice.
Right.
But just to be able to put together like a video package for that thing would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Definitely plenty of those to pull from. There was a lot of Shackton moments. There were a lot of missed layups.
Yeah.
Like at first we were like, hey, we're going to play to 15, like each game. And then I was like, all right, we're going to play 11 every game, because the games were taking a little bit of time. But, for the most part, it's dudes our age that, like you said, it's kind of a dream come true for them to be able to, play on the Kia Center floor. And like we obviously you're not in the Magic locker room, but they bring you into a locker room, so that you could like put your stuff down. Some people may need to change. Like I'm putting on my compression sleeves, and there were probably like 7 or 8 pairs of Paolos of the Jordan Airs. Everybody made sure to bring theirs.
Cool.
So I brought mine, and it's just like, it's like you're almost an NBA player for at least a couple of hours. So, and I would love to, I'm happy to report that the Paolo, the Airs, very comfortable to hoop in. I know you have not loved walking around in them. It's a tight toe box. I don't know how much I would like walking around in them, but hooping, I like, usually you feel really weird being hooping in one pair of shoes for the first time. And I just put them on and went, and they felt pretty good. So
love that. Yeah. Next year, we've already talked to you and I about some things we want to improve. Like you said, I think we also need some kind of like post-game press conference, that type of thing. Maybe next year we'll just go full on. We'll do like a broadcast. Maybe I'll commentate next year. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll go next year. I'll commentate it. We'll do a post-game press conference. It'll be great. But yeah, if you missed out on that, definitely be on the lookout next season, because like Jonathan said, we're going to try to do it every season going forward. But
Kevin, I can't tell you, we probably got at least 3 or 4 messages today. So did I miss this? I didn't know you guys were doing it. It's like, listen to the show. Really that simple.
Listen to the show.
And follow us on social media. We definitely posted about it, half a dozen times over the course of the last couple of weeks. So it's got to be tuned in, got to be locked in.
Yep. Even if the Magic are struggling, you got to stay locked into the 6-man show, because you never know what you're going to miss. But glad you guys got to do that. That was obviously the most important game of the week, but there were a couple other Magic games this week, right? Up and down week, huh? That Dallas game was something, but then Saturday against Sacramento, you really turned it around. You want to jump into some of these games now?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to listeners today, as we were waiting outside, and it's just like all of these like 30-something-year-olds like all stretching before we would go inside, make sure that there was not an Achilles or an ACL tear today. So that's definitely a win.
Yeah.
No obliques, none of that. But one thing that was brought up is like with the Magic, there's no like, oh, they had a decent shooting game. It's either completely terrible or they're kind of lighting the world on fire. And obviously the first part of that, not being able to make anything, what was it, 16% from behind the arc on Thursday against Dallas. And it kind of felt like it was a game that you needed to win. And now that we have the Sacramento game in hand, in retrospect, it doesn't feel as big. but it was disappointing. You're at the time 3 games in a row, a Dallas team that has obviously struggled since the Luka trade. Injuries. They were borderline having to forfeit games a couple of weeks ago, not to potentially not having enough available players. But that third quarter against Dallas again was just killer. I mean, the entire game was, but yeah, just another third quarter where you struggle, and another game where we're like, hey, like our main guys not really having enough help. So yeah, not great to lose that one to Dallas. But again, when you think about it a few days later, and we have the Sacramento game, really not too bad at the end of the day.
Yeah, that Thursday against Dallas, 5 of 30 from 3. It's crazy to say those numbers out loud. And Corey Joseph was 2 of 5 by himself. So everybody else was, 3 of 25. 3 threes outside of Corey Joseph, which is just never going to be good enough. But yeah.
Pretty sure is it Jaden Hardy had more threes than our entire team by himself.
Yep. The same amount. He went 5 of 6. The Magic went 5 of 30. So yeah, that was the nail in the coffin. Like you said,
I think
quarter.
All of those were the second half.
Yeah, at least the majority of them. I don't remember if it was all of them or not, but yeah, but once again, it's the third quarter. If you've been listening to the show for the last couple of weeks, we've been saying a third quarter, that's like the litmus test on any given night. If the Magic win the quarter, they're more than likely going to win the game, or even tie. Win or tie the third quarter, and they're more than likely going to win the game. If you lose the third quarter, they're in bad shape, and that was the case on Thursday. After a pretty good second quarter, you had the lead going into the third, and then it just all fell apart. Disastrous fashion. It wasn't like, just they barely beat us. No, at one point, Dallas was on a 17-0 run in that third quarter, blew the game open, and the Magic could never recover. So
it's like a 20-2 run, I think, to close the third.
Yeah, definitely disappointing, especially considering... Go ahead.
I was going to say, Paolo had the massive dunk off of the missed free throw, got the rebound, had the massive dunk, put us up 11. And then it felt like Jaden Hardy had like an 18-0 run, like by himself.
Yeah.
And again, 11-point lead, and then it got down to like 6 or 5, and it was like, okay, it's kind of time to call timeout. Probably could have called a timeout the possession before. And then all of a sudden, it's a 2-point lead, and then you call timeout. Something that I've been thinking about kind of since that game on Thursday is like, I would much rather call a timeout early than call a timeout too late. Right? Like, everybody has kind of noticed that this has been an issue, throughout this season. At what point do you just start getting a little like more trigger happy with the timeouts? Like, hey, it kind of feels like they could be starting a run here. Like, it's a 7-point lead at this point. The offense hasn't looked great the last couple of possessions. Let's call a timeout and kind of, regroup, because it does feel like pretty consistently, I don't want to say once a week, but at least, a couple times, every other week, we're like, man, there was a big run, could have had a timeout, didn't have a timeout, things kind of get out of hand. But, like, on the other hand, you can't let a guy like Jaden Hardy come in and just detonate the game. Like, that's kind of what happened. And then it's like, there was some kind of switch. I think it was, I forget who it was on Dallas, but with Jaden Hardy. And Goga kind of realized the switch too late and then tried to get out to Jalen Hardy. Is it Jaden or Jalen? I don't remember it.
It's Hardy, Jaden, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Jaden Hardy in the corner, and it was just like a step and a half too late, and he hit another 3. It's like, how are we leaving this guy open right now? So, not to make such a big thing about Jaden Hardy, but he kind of like single-handedly flipped that game and won it for Dallas.
Yeah, I think part of the silver lining for this night is that the Hawks also lost, which we'll talk about the standings here in a little bit. But I guess the flip side of it is the Hawks lost. So that was a chance to gain a full game on the Hawks. As we're recording this right now, we're tied with the Hawks. They are currently up 20 on the Milwaukee Bucks now in the third quarter. So they are running away with that one. Obviously, we'll see. There's still a quarter and a half to play. It's plenty of time, but there's a chance the Magic will drop back down to 8th by the time, you and I are done with the show tonight. And by the time, certainly, the people are listening to it in the morning. But yeah, I think that was part of the frustration, but also, I guess, silver lining that the Magic didn't necessarily lose ground on Thursday in what is definitely proving to be a very competitive 7, 8, 9 battle when it comes to the play-in. So, yeah, disappointing night. And like you said, you were rolling is relative. Team was on a 3-game win streak. Not necessarily prettiest 3-game win streak you'll ever see, but you had an 11-point lead in the third quarter. You always want to be able to try to, seal that, get a 4-game winning streak. You got another home game Saturday against Sacramento, chance to make it 5. And unfortunately, just that collapse in the third quarter was too much to overcome. So, yeah, disappointing for sure. Do you have any other thoughts from this Dallas game?
No, not really. Like I said, It felt super. Like I was furious after that game. Jamal Mosley, not at his best, I thought. But when your team shoots 5 of 30 from behind the arc, it's like Jamal is like the 4th or 5th guy that I would be frustrated with, about that loss. But yeah, like it felt like a missed opportunity. And then you go into Saturday and you get the win, and it's like, you know what, it's okay, everyth's fine.
Yeah.
We interrupt this episode to bring you our favorite segment of the week. This is this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the week. We're going to take you back to Thursday. Yes, it was a loss, but if we go back to the third quarter, to the 5:20 mark, Magic up by 9 at that point. Paolo Banchero at the free throw line, shoots the free throw, misses it, gets the rebound, one dribble, goes up with 2 hands like this, and jams on top of Caleb Martin. Our favorite dunk of the week, gave the Magic an 11-point lead, which they almost immediately squandered, like we talked about, to Jaden Hardy. But yeah, that is this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the week. Jam Hot Chicken is bringing great chicken. I don't have the ad read in front of me right now like I normally would, but I was there today, had the Sando. They even have wings now. I was at Jam a couple of weeks ago with one of my buddies who had only had Jam once before, didn't have the wings, but it's in like their hot dip, and then it's also like honey. I was talking to Andrew about it today, but the texture of these wings, they're just perfectly crispy. Like it is the perfect texture for a hot wing. Oh, it's also Frank's hot sauce, I think, is part of that as well. But I had the Sando today. Always incredible. The mac and cheese, the fries, the pickles, the slaw, whatever you get there, it's all fantastic. They're located over there at 400 West New England Avenue in Hannibal Square over there in Winter Park. Find them at Jam Hot Chicken FL or at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media, and jamhotchickenfl.com. You can access their menu, order online, all that kind of good stuff. And you can even order on Uber Eats as well. You don't want to leave the house, but you still want jam. You can get it delivered right to your door. So a big shout out to our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken.
Yeah, Jam's the best. Andrew's the best. Big shout out to him and his whole crew. Also want to shout out Austin Lampy, Irish Magic Mike, Nick from the Cloud, Victor Cologne, and Mysterious Mosley. Those are 5 of our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons. They are the best of the best. We love our patrons, not just because they're big Magic fans, but because they support the mission of the 6-Man Show by financially backing what we do. And that is our aim, is to raise up this generation of Magic fans to be more passionate, more loud, more proud, more invested in this team. And so, yeah, big shout out to all of them and to all of our patrons. If you're interested in joining them and the many others that are on our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/The6Man Show. Check out the different tiers and benefits that are available with each. Find one that interests you, find one that fits in your budget, and then you too can support our mission here at the 6-Man Show. Again, big shout out to all of our patrons. And now let's get back to the episode. Yeah. Speaking of Saturday, it wasn't just a win. It was a 30-point drubbing, 121-91 over the Sacramento Kings. And I got to be honest, Jonathan, obviously we'll talk about the Magic and how certain guys played well. I mean, almost everybody played well, really. But I was more, as much as I enjoyed the win, I was more kind of disappointed and surprised in what we saw from Sacramento. That did not look like a team that's fighting for playoff positioning in the West. Like, if I had my blinders on and I had no idea about the standings, just watching their effort, I would have thought this was a tanking team. Like, I was really surprised at how they just kind of mailed it in. Now, obviously, a lot of credit goes to the Magic. They made life very difficult for them. They knocked down threes, which when this Magic team is knocking down threes, they are, I don't want to say unbeatable, but they certainly are very good, obviously. But yeah, the Kings just looked flat, and I'm not complaining about it. It was a good time. The Magic really could have used a nice blowout win like this. And so, yeah, Magic win 121-91. What'd you think about this one?
Well, when we talk about a team who fired their coach mid-season and traded away basically like their franchise player mid-season, and they've just kind of thrown together the more modernized version of, the 2022-2023 Chicago Bulls. It's like, I don't think anybody would argue that like Sabonis isn't a significant upgrade, from Vooch at this point in their careers. But, I think it just kind of, the DeMar and Zach LaVine thing always felt kind of weird. And if both of those guys don't really have it going, it's just going to be tough. And then when the Magic shoot the ball as well as they did and defend as well as they did this entire game, like the Magic had a 20-point lead a couple of times, I think, in the second quarter, and then Kings went on a little bit of a run, and then the Magic were able to respond to that and regain a 20-point lead, and then happened to start the third quarter. They started to come back. I think they got it down to like 11 or 12, if I'm not mistaken, and then the Magic really blew the game open, got it to that 30-point lead, and were able to coast the rest of the way. Like, I don't even think Paolo Banchero played in the fourth quarter, broke his consecutive 30-point game streak. But this is the time of year. Some people were upset about that. But this is the time of year where, hey, if you can rest Paolo Banchero for an entire fourth quarter, especially the way that he's been carrying you and just the load that he's been carrying the last several weeks, I'm totally fine with. But he's going to have more 30-point game streaks, folks. Like, it's not like this is the last that we're going to see of that with Paolo. Like, that's going to kind of become the norm for him, I think, in a way. So, yeah, when you have a game like this where threes are just raining down all over the place, we get to see that maybe a handful of times a year. It always seems to happen against the Sacramento Kings. I know David and Jeff were talking about that on the broadcast on Saturday. But I think we both probably went into this episode figuring that we were going to have a little bit of a conversation around Caleb Houston, because like it feels like the last 2 weeks, like we're in the best stretch of Caleb Houston's career. This is the second game in the last, couple of weeks where he's hit at least 6 threes. I think he was 6 of 7 in this one, 18 points. And he's just more confident than he's ever been. And I'm more confident in him than I've ever been, because we've always kind of had this theory that Caleb Houston was a really good shooter, but it didn't materialize in points and in his percentages. And I'm pretty sure over the last few weeks, he's like over 50%. He's the best 3-point shooter on the Magic this year, like hovering right around 39%. So, like, I don't love the fact that we haven't been seeing a lot of J.I. or a lot of Tristan da Silva, but when Caleb Houston is playing as well as he's been playing, it's kind of hard to argue, because he's literally a game changer for this team. I'm just hoping the way that he's shooting and the confidence that he has is contagious to the rest of the team, because that's what really feels like has been the problem this year, is just guys not shooting the ball well and leading to a lack of confidence. And when you don't have confidence, as a self-proclaimed shooter myself, it's just hard to knock down shots, especially in that building. Trust me. I got to experience that today. If you don't have it going, that 3-point line, it's far away from the basket, believe it or not. But, it was just, we've had like different seasons this year of like, we start the season, everything's awesome. You lose Paolo, you feel like the year's over. Franz becomes a superstar. You're beating everybody. You feel like this team is just waiting to get Paolo Banchero back, and then everything will be awesome. And then after a month of awesome Franz, you lose him, and then you're like, okay, now it's really over. And then you're still winning games, Jalen Suggs. And then he's out. And then Paolo comes back and Franz comes back, and you're getting blown out every night. And then you go from getting blown out every night to like every game is really, really close and really, really stressful. So to get a game like this, where like midway through the third quarter, you're like, thank goodness we're just going to get a win tonight. We're not really going to have to worry about it and sweat it out. And it's just, basketball is more fun when your team is making threes. So just a big win.
Yeah, you talk about Caleb. His last 5 games, Jonathan, did a little mathematizing over here. He's averaged 20 minutes per game, and he's shot 58% from 3.
That's hot.
And this is not like microscopic sample size, right? Like, In those 5 games, he's shot 4, 6, 6, 1, and 7 threes. Okay. So he's shooting 58% on, what is that? 24 threes in 5 games. So very clearly the best stretch of his career, living up to the Caleb nickname that so many have latched onto over his last his few seasons here in Orlando.
So many, meaning Kevin Tucker.
Well, here's the thing. One time in the post-game live, I mentioned Caleb, and someone in the chat said they invented Caleb, and I almost went, had a little fight going there on the chat.
I was like, had a diva moment.
If you want to say you claimed it, that's fine. Caleb is for everyone. Okay, Caleb is for everyone. But anyway, yeah, I mean, he's been terrific. Again, 20 minutes a game. It's going to be very interesting to see, not that he's going to keep up the shooting performance. No one's going to shoot 58% from 3, but the minutes are what's interesting to me because he's earning it, right? Like, I mean, when you're shooting 58% from 3, you got to stay on the floor. And so we'll see how he does this week. Obviously, it's an interesting week with a back-to-back to start, Clippers, Spurs, and then the Wizards on Thursday. So 3 games in 4 nights is what it'll end up being. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I wanted to mention from this game and tying into the Mavericks game is how well the Magic over these 2 games limited, restricted, and even shut down the best players on both of these teams. Going back to Thursday, which honestly, this is another point of frustration for Thursday, you hold Anthony Davis to 5 of 19 from the field, 15 points for him, right? Klay Thompson, obviously this is older version of Klay Thompson, not necessarily the guy who, would terrify you, could drop 25 any given night, but he only takes 10 shots. I don't know if you want to consider Spencer Dinwiddie another, main option there, considering Kyrie's out and all that stuff. But I mean, he only takes 7 shots, 2 of 7 from the field. Like, those are 3 starters the Magic really shut down, which again is part of why that game Thursday is frustrating, because you shut down who you're supposed to shut down, but then a guy like Jaden Hardy is able to go off. But then Saturday against Sacramento, you hold DeMar DeRozan 7 of 11 from the field. Obviously, that's a good percentage, but he only takes 11 shots. Sabonis 4 of 12 from the field. Zach LaVine 3 of 8. So combined, they took 31 shots from those 3 guys. And you'll take that every single night. Like that just as well as the Magic shot, and they scored 121 points, and that's great. You also held the Kings to 91 points, which is nothing to laugh at or sneeze at or whatever phrase you want to choose. And so obviously shout out to the defense, playing really well. The other thing we got to talk about from Saturday's game, Jonathan, the return of Markelle Fultz back to Orlando, beloved by many. What'd you think about Markelle's return to Orlando?
He didn't light it up exactly.
Yeah.
But like, we have to separate the emotion of Markelle and the reality of who he is as a basketball player at this point in time. And I think the reality, because I don't even think we talked about him signing with the Kings at any point on the show.
I think we did it briefly, but yes. Yeah, not a long segment or anything.
A month or so ago, maybe a little bit more, give or take a couple of weeks. But the fact that he waited until like this point in the season to sign with the team, and the fact that, he's just not lighting it up, it just speaks to kind of where he is in his career. And I do think it's one of the more like tragic stories that we've had, like in terms of a guy just not being able to stay healthy, right? And it's so funny. Victor Wembanyama, out for the season with the blood clot, like in his shoulder or whatever, just had like thoracic decompression surgery. And I can't help but think, what would have happened with Markelle just had they found the thoracic outlet syndrome earlier, and if he just would have had the surgery instead of like trying to rehab it. And if I don't know, we can talk about the Markelle injury forever, but you and I talked a little bit before the game when it was revealed that there was going to be a tribute video for Markelle. And I was, maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was slightly surprised that there was a tribute. And it's not, I think obviously when I had that reaction, I was probably underrating like the emotional attachment that a lot of fans had to Markelle, rather than like the amount of time he was here and like the like games played. Like when I went through the list of all time, like people who have played in however many games, when I read that Mario Hezonja played in more games than Markelle Fultz, I was astounded. I was genuinely shocked when I saw that. And like, 60% of our current roster has played in more games, for the Magic than Markelle Fultz. But yeah, I definitely wasn't really thinking of like the how beloved he was when he was here, and like the emotional attachment that fans had. And at the end of the day, it's a tribute video. It takes the social media team a couple hours to put together, and it's a nice gesture to a guy that he gave it all when he was here. I don't think anybody would argue that. It was just kind of, he was a victim of injury and circumstance and everything like that. But it was really cool seeing everybody be able to reunite, with Markelle, whether it was, during the game or, after the game. Forget who it was. There was like a moment in the middle of the game. Somebody was like putting their head on Markelle, like just trying to like playfully like move him out of the way. And it's like, these dudes all still love this guy, so much. And obviously we just wish nothing but the best for him and for his family and everything like that. And definitely, it was more emotional than I guess I thought it was going to be, seeing Markelle back in the building.
Yeah, it was really special. Obviously we talk about the injuries and the games played and everything, but at the end of the day, he did spend 5 years in Orlando. Obviously didn't play in nearly as many games as any of us or he hoped he would have, but you spend 5 years in a city on a team. I'm down for a tribute video, especially one of the things we talked about, like there aren't that many players that played in Orlando for more than 5 years, really. Like I think there were 19, when I looked it up, 19 players who played 6 seasons or more in Orlando. So like it's not that many people, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I thought it was a cool moment, and you can't overstate also his impact off the floor, like his charity work in Central Florida. Obviously on the court, he had his moments. In the locker room, he was beloved by players, by coaches, by the organization. And then off the court, just a really stand-up guy and very impactful on this community that he called home for 5 years. And so very cool to see him back. Very cool to see him back on an NBA floor as well. Again, like you said, not lighting it up, but, on a team that's going to potentially play in the postseason. We'll see if they're able to hang on to the 8th, 9th, or 10th seed there in the West. And so we'll see. Maybe he'll get some playing time in the play-in. But yeah, very cool to see Markelle. Glad to see him back, and we'll see how long he can continue to stretch his NBA career. But yeah, 30-point blowout, 50 in the house. That was pretty fun. Getting to see 50 Cent. Did you hear David Steele call him Fitty? That was quite the experience to hear that.
The other thing that was killing me was Jeff being like, why don't you sing one of his songs? And he's like, I would, but I don't want to get fined. Or as if David Steele knows a single 50 Cent song, right? Like, and then the thought entered my mind of like what I would give to watch David Steele like sing along to a 50 Cent song.
Yeah.
Would love that very much.
Very, very quick response by him, by the way. You got to give him credit for blaming the copyright laws.
He still got the fastball.
That's right. But hey, I also loved that he was able to play the song at the end. Like, he's the guy who hit the button post game. That was pretty cool. But yeah, all in all, I mean, not a whole lot you can really complain about when you win by 30 and you knock down all those threes. Just going through box score numbers. Paolo, like you said, ends the 30-point streak, ends up with 24, but only plays 29 minutes, which is big, like I said, because we have this back-to-back today and tomorrow. Franz with 21, Wendell with 12, and obviously Caleb Houston off the bench was big with those 6 triples. Goga, I loved Goga on Saturday. 12 and 10 with 5 assists. The dude was throwing dimes left and right. It was really fun to see him.
He's the fastest player in NBA history to put up that stat line.
Right. Only playing 17 minutes in total on Saturday, which is wild. And then, yeah, every player scored. Every player that was available on the injury report scored on Saturday. Again, you can't complain about any of those things. It's pretty cool.
We had 10 guys hit threes.
Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, you're exactly right.
Usually we have like 3 or 4. So
maybe.
You'll take that all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what was it? Was it 18 threes?
18 of 39, 46% from 3. Again, you
from
shoot
5 of 30 to that.
Yeah. You make 5 threes on Thursday, 48 hours later, you make 18. What gives? this team is just Jekyll and Hyde. But yeah, 30-point win over a postseason team right now in the West. Again, they didn't look good, but on paper, that's a postseason Western Conference team. So you'll take that, especially considering the opponent that is looming Monday, the game you'll be attending against the Clippers there. Do we want to look ahead to the week that's in front of us, or you got any other thoughts about what's already happened?
No, just looking forward to the Clippers game. Obviously, it's going to be a big test. I think the Clippers sat Kawhi their last game, and it sounds like Sunday, he's going to be ready for Monday. So yeah, I mean, I think the last I looked, they were second in defensive rating in the entire league. Yeah. The Clippers, we leapfrog them after Saturday's game. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's going to be a big test. Again, was talking to some listeners today, and it's like, we've been winning more recently, but it's like you're beating Charlotte, you're beating Washington, you're beating a not very good Sacramento team. If you beat this Clippers team, I will feel more like confident in this team's ability to beat good teams again. You beat Milwaukee, a week or 2 weeks ago, whatever that was. You beat the Lakers, obviously, last week. So you beat this Clippers team. It's like, okay, we can actually beat good teams more regularly, and you win that game against the Clippers, and then then we'll be down to 6 games left. I think we have 7 right now. So if you pick that one up, you should beat the Spurs, you should beat the Wizards, and then all of a sudden you're down to your last 4, and 2 of those are against Atlanta. So we're kind of jumping ahead to the week ahead here, but if you do well this week, I'm starting to feel pretty confident about the 7 seed.
Yeah, or better. But anyway,
or better. Oh my goodness! I just want to let you know with this guy.
The Orlando Magic do have the number 2 defensive rating now after that game on Saturday. The Clippers are 3. The Magic are at 109.2 defensive rating, and the Clippers are at 109.6. So just eking out ahead. But obviously, Monday's game will determine potentially who's 2 or 3 after Monday. So, but yeah, you want to go ahead to the week ahead? You want to look ahead and see what's in the crystal ball? So
Clippers,
just to recap, it's Monday night home against the Clippers. Tuesday on a back-to-back at San Antonio. That's tough. Orlando to San Antonio back-to-back. Not great. And then Thursday, you're in D.C. to play the lowly Washington Wizards for the final time this season. And then to get super ahead, that's when you have the super long layoff after that Wizards game. That's when you have, because of the schedule changes from the fires and all that kind of stuff, you have 4 days off, 4 full days off after that before you play next Tuesday. But we'll get to that later. But yeah, Clippers, Spurs, Wizards, what you think?
I want to say 3-0. I really want to. Yep. I want to so badly. My thing is, like, you have to beat San Antonio. You have to beat Washington. I don't care that it's the second night of a back-to-back. I don't care that you're traveling. No Wemby, no De'Aaron Fox. You have to win that game. You have to beat the Wizards. You know what, Kev? I said that the optimist in me is dead this season, but this team they really showed me something against the Lakers. I'm going to say 3-0. I'm going to say 3-0, and then at that point, splitting the series with the Hawks should be enough for the 7 seed. You go 3-0 this week, you should be able to split the series with the Hawks.
That's interesting.
Because, I think it would be, even if you lose to Indiana and you lose to, if you lose 3 straight, you can split with the Hawks if you can get either the Celtics game or the Pacers game, right?
Well, yeah. Here, let me just talk through a couple numbers really fast because I have them in front of me.
And let's look at the Hawks schedule too, if you have that up. Yeah,
that's what I'm looking at. I'm going to look at that and also the division stuff. Okay, and obviously I am going to talk about the 6 seed because I have the microphone for a little bit. So when it comes to the Hawks and the Magic, right now the Magic own the division not head to head, but I mean the Magic's division record is 10-3. The Hawks division record is 9-5. 9-5. That means they've played 14. So what does that mean? How many do they have left?
If you beat the Wizards and you split with the Hawks, you end up with a better division record.
Correct. Yes. Right. You beat the Wizards. Well, wait, hold on. Where's my math? You play 4 teams. That's 16. So the Hawks still have 2. Oh, we're the last 2 division games. Okay. So we're their last 2 division games. Right. So if you split and you beat the Wizards, you have the better division record. I see what you're saying now. So if you go 1-1 in this stretch, which means you go 2-2 against the Hawks on the season, and you beat the Wizards, you have a 1-game lead in the division, which means you win the division, which means you, in theory, could be the 7th seed. Right. So, going back to the Hawks, I know we did this once recently, but just looking at the rest of their schedule here, currently they're up a lot over the Bucks. What is it? 24 points with 10 minutes to go over the Bucks, so they're probably going to get a win there. Then they host Portland, at Dallas, versus New York, versus Utah, at Orlando, at Brooklyn, at Philadelphia, versus Orlando. That is a cakewalk. That is crazy. That is only one team above 500 the rest of the way after today. That's the New York Knicks. Portland, Dallas, Utah, Orlando, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Orlando outside of that. That's pretty.
That's kind of sneaky tough, though. Like Portland and Dallas, like if AD is playing and playing well, dude, Portland is not bad.
Yes, I agree with Portland, but it is at home. So you got that Portland on the East Coast.
The Hawks are just a weird team where they lose to the teams that you think they're going to beat, and then they beat the teams that you think they're going to lose to.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but they're whooping up on Milwaukee right now with Giannis. Giannis is playing tonight, so we'll see what they do the rest of the way.
Where's my point?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly right. So we'll see, but right now, tied, well, by percentage points, the Magic are ahead by a little bit. But again, assuming this Hawks score holds, they will jump the Magic by a half game. The other thing I just have to talk about, because again, I have the microphone, is the 6th seed. With this loss, if the Bucks hang on to this loss, the Magic are going to be 4.5 games back of the Milwaukee Bucks, who are in a free fall right now. The Bucks are free falling. Not to mention the Pistons, who are going to lose, but I think we're not going to catch the Pistons. We're 6.5 games back. The Bucks are the team to keep an eye on, though. Again, you're going to be 4.5 games back of the Bucks. The problem is you don't own the tiebreaker, but they're scheduled the rest of the way versus Phoenix. That's a team fighting for playoff lives. At Philadelphia, at Miami, at New Orleans versus Minnesota versus New Orleans, but then a double at Detroit versus Detroit to close the season. Those two teams in direct competition with each other, potentially for the 6 or 5 seed. Those Detroit Pistons will be playing for, again, playoff positioning then, so they're going to go for it. I'm just saying, it's not impossible.
It feels like we have to win out for that to happen.
I mean, you're 4.5 games back. And, well, let's see. The Bucks, if they lose today, they're going to be 40-34. The Magic are 36-39 with 7 to play. So, I mean, yeah, if you go 7-0, they have to go 2-6, you know? Or
I don't see it.
If you go 6-1, they have to go 1-7 or whatever it is, you know? It's very improbable, but they are free falling. They are a mess. They've lost 3 in a row. They're getting destroyed tonight. I'm just saying miracles happen, and they'd be really fun if it happened here, especially because I've been talking about the 6th seed for 2 months, it feels like.
Yeah.
But I digress. That's the 6th seed situation. All in all, it looks like the Magic, obviously, they do control their own destiny for the 7th seed. That's what it comes down to. The Magic can take care of business over these last 7 games. They will be the 7th seed, and obviously we'll see how it shakes out. I haven't given my prediction. I forgot. I haven't given my prediction for the week ahead. I feel like it's 2-1. I want to say 3-0. I'm going to say 2-1. But I'm gonna make it weird and funky. I'm gonna say you beat the Clippers and you lose to the Spurs. That's what I'm gonna say. And then you beat the Wizards. So I'm just gonna be that guy and say that's where fun. The 2-1 comes from. But it sets up a very interesting last 4 games. Atlanta, Boston, Indiana, Atlanta. We have a lot to talk about next week, that's for sure, when it comes to the week ahead. But yeah, I'll go 2-1, and if it's 3-0, I'll be elated. So yeah, that's all I got for this one. What else you got?
That's really all that I have. Wanted to make sure that we talked about Caleb Houston because I think 3 months ago we thought that this could possibly be Caleb's last year, in Orlando,
in the NBA, maybe.
Quite potentially. I think it's pretty different. And I was again talking to listeners today, and when we the reason we were so upset after the trade deadline with the whole like, oh, we don't want to get squeezed thing was like, well, what do you think is going to happen if the rest of the season just kind of goes to crap? It feels like if we can finish these last 7 strongly, if you can go like 4-3 and you win the play-in and you make the playoffs, and if you can push Boston to, a really competitive 5 or 6 game series, then all of a sudden you can go back and say like, then you can say like, hey, we did that without 2 of our best 4 or 5 players, with Jalen and Mo Wagner, and look what happened when we started knocking down shots. That's the thing, and kind of not a revelation, but something that crossed my mind Saturday was like, if this team could just shoot league average, we're a 50-win team this year. Like, even with all the injuries, no Jalen, no Mo, I still think maybe not 50, but like high 40s. You could be if this team could just knock down threes. So, there's a lot of hard decisions that they're going to have to make this summer, with Caleb and Jet and with Tristan, because it feels like each of those guys are kind of fighting for minutes. But, having a guy where you could be like, look, this guy is on a relatively cheap deal and, is really blossoming as a shooter, I don't envy the decisions and the things that this front office has to get done this offseason. But it's really fun seeing Caleb knock down threes. I know we've both been big fans of Caleb, in the couple of years that he's been here. And it's just always like, hey, he does everything right except actually knock down the shots, and he's starting to knock those down.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to add before we wrap the episode up is someone asked me, I think it was on a post-game live, or maybe it was on Twitter, I don't remember, about Jalen. And someone saying, if we make the playoffs, is there a world in which Jalen comes back? And I just want everybody to know the answer to that is no, right? Like, it sounds nice. It sounds like some sort of, storybook ending where the Magic, all of a sudden Jalen Suggs gets back and he leads the Magic to this upset of the Boston Celtics or whomever. It's not in the cards. So if
I will
anyone,
get Jalen Suggs' face tattooed somewhere on my body if that were to happen.
Yeah. By all accounts,
might do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. By all accounts, Jalen Suggs is done for the season.
I'm almost positive when they made the announcement, they said he's out for the season, including the postseason. I remember that. I don't know if it was Shams but I do remember that being part of the reporting.
Right. That's what I was actually looking up just a moment ago, because the official PR did not say that, but I remember seeing that as well, that he was out for the season. So,
he's been taking in some, women's March Madness.
Yeah, that was fun.
Supporting Haley Van Lith.
Yeah, watching TCU win. But I think that's all I got for this one. We'll see what this week's holds. This will be interesting week ahead for sure.
All right, let's wrap it up. That is going to do it for this one. For Jonathan and Kevin, for myself and for Kevin, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!